All right, we are going to get started. If we have other participants joining us, we'll welcome them again. My name is Nina Davis. I am from MASSP and super excited to be here with our partners from MDHHS. We do have Jesse Schaefer and Grace Rudolph on with us. I will allow them to go ahead and introduce themselves at this time and just kind of give you their titles, and then I will proceed with our introduction and we'll get started.
Thank you, Nina. Good morning, everyone. My name is Jesse Schaefer. I work with MDHHS. I've been working on the Michigan Model for Health project and program curriculum since 2008, so a good long time now. I've seen lots of iterations of Michigan Model. If you've heard of Michigan Model, it's changed quite a bit. So I'm going to give you some updates today, talk a little bit about some of the changes that have happened. Michigan Model has been around since 1984, so it's gone through lots of iterations. The current version is fully online. We may even have some time to explore and do a little show and tell later, but I'm going to give you some information about health education and how prevention education is addressed through Michigan Model for secondary schools. And so a little bit about me. Previously, I was a classroom teacher. I worked in high school. I've also been a health educator. I worked at 3 teen health centers in the Detroit area prior to coming to the state, doing prevention education, peer education, and HIV prevention, testing, and counseling. So just to give you a little bit of background for me, excited to talk to you today. And I'll pass it to, I think you said Grace was going to give an intro.
If Grace would like to do an intro.
Absolutely. Jesse, it's great to hear all of your expertise and coming from school classroom as I did as well, which is interesting enough because my degree was not in school education. It actually was in a pre-med student that got involved in long-term subbing, and then that quickly turned into some classroom coverage for some long-term subbing, and I stayed in some classrooms for a while. But I appreciate you coming on and sharing all about Michigan Model for Health and all the wonderful things that you guys have been doing and editing and updating so that our communities can definitely learn more from you, and I appreciate that. Anyways, my name is Grace Rudolph. I am the Youth and Young Adult E-Cigarette Consultant for the state of Michigan's tobacco section. I work directly with lots of organizations that are utilizing prevention education, looking to create sustainable strategies for holistic approach to violation of tobacco free policies within K through 12 schools, and just providing that technical assistance to anybody who is needing that. You can reach out to me. I will drop my email in the chat, but I also will be dropping in some additional resources. We recently created a vape detector fact sheet that I would like to share, and also in partner with MASSP, we did a survey on K through 12 response to tobacco tobacco-free violations to policy, and so we'd love to share that report and our findings and allow everybody to take a look at what we found in terms of alternative to suspension and out-of-school suspension. So thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. And so I guess before I continue with this intro, I'll introduce myself. If you don't know me, I'm Nina Davis, work at MASSP. So my main role is Director of Membership and Outreach. My colleague typically does these webinars, but I have to share, I'm super excited to be here today and do this one because my background is actually, I was a health certified educator, taught English, but also taught health education. So this is something I'm very passionate about. And again, just super excited to be with you all here today. So if you have not already, please introduce yourself in the chat. Be sure to include your name, your school and role, and maybe one hope or question that you have for today's session. In addition, just a reminder, make sure your chat is set to respond to everyone so that others may see your questions and or comments today. So before we begin, just a couple reminders. Use the Q&A system to post questions and upvote questions that you want to make sure are asked. Use chat to add ideas and or comments. And a copy of the slide deck and a link to a recording of today's session will be emailed to participants and distributed throughout our publications. So this disclaimer we have to, legally give you here. Please note this webinar is being recorded and shared with registrants. The information provided by MASSP and the panelists are advisory in nature based on information as of today and are intended to guide thinking. Principals are advised to seek specific guidance in any of these areas from their district leadership, legal counsel, and local law enforcement. If you are seeking a thought partner to help with brainstorming or planning, please contact any member of our MASSP team. We strongly recommend that decision makers work in collaboration with their district leadership, teachers, student leaders, and their Board of Education based on the most current information available and local capacity. So with that said, I am going to stop sharing and allow Jesse to share their slides, and we will get started.
All right, thanks, Nina. Let me get started here. Okay, can you see the slides? It did make you all disappear on me. I apologize. Good morning, everyone. As I said, I'm Jessie Schaefer, Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. I work on the Michigan Model for Health program. I'm going to give you a little overview about the program today. And I actually have a little more time for the presentation than I anticipated. So we may do a little bit of a walkthrough where I actually navigate the system and show you some of the lessons, answer questions specifically towards the end of the session. I'm also going to provide my contact information. If you have further questions, or even if you wanted kind of a one-on-one discussion, we could do that as follow-up. I also host open office hours, and I can show you where those are listed on the website. We do have a session for those next week. So if you do want to drop in and chat during that time, that's another option as well. So a little bit about Michigan Model for Health, like I said, has been around for a long time, since the 80s, but it has gone through many revisions and changes since then. So I wanted to make sure that you in your district are utilizing the most up-to-date version, and that you know a little bit about what that involves. So without further ado, I'll get into it a little bit. Okay, so a couple agenda items that I just kind of plan to talk to you about today. We're going to talk about what is the Michigan Model for Health. We're going to talk about standards and effectiveness, some of the core features. I'll talk about the portal and curriculum, and maybe even do a little show and tell with you today. We'll talk about training and support, what's offered here in Michigan and beyond. And then also we'll have some time for Q&A. And like I said, kind of hidden in that process will probably also be actually going to the portal and showing you in the system, what things look like, where they are, and answer any questions that you might have along the way. So thanks for being here this morning. Very excited to share some content with you. And like I said, I'm fully available for follow-up if you have questions, if you'd like to touch base. So that's a little on our agenda. So what is the Michigan Model for Health? Like I said, it's been around for a long time. It is a collaboration. I think that's one of the first things I'd like to share. It was initially put together as kind of a partnership between different departments with lots of content experts that were looking to have kind of a state curriculum that really focused and was aligned with our standards and guidelines. And that is still the function that it's serving. And in fact, it's like I said, changed, adapted, and been updated quite a bit in recent years. But we still have that collaborative nature with other departments and content experts. But generally speaking, it is a pre-K through 12th grade comprehensive health education curriculum. Pre-K wasn't offered when I started, so that was a project I was very involved in. So if you have questions about that too. I know today we're talking mostly about secondary though, so I'll focus on that as we're discussing it. But again, any questions? It is evidence-based and a skills-based instruction curriculum. So it's very focused on skills right up front. In fact, our high school curriculum, before we even start talking about content, there's an entire unit about skills. And then as we move through the curriculum and lessons, those skills are reinforced within the context of all of the content. So like, for example, you're talking decision making, goal setting, you could talk about that in terms of, tobacco prevention. You can talk about that in terms of, nutrition education. So what we do is we talk about the skills, we reinforce it, not only at grade levels, it's also sequential. Kids are getting these lessons in elementary. When they get to middle school, it's going to continue to reinforce those same concepts in a developmentally appropriate way, of course. So very exciting stuff. Like I said, 40 plus years of trusted implementation. So we do have a lot of data. We have a lot of lessons learned that we've made, along the way and applied. So very exciting stuff. We are in 40 plus states. Actually, I know as of today, 43 states in the US. We have 243,000 teachers involved in the program and 8.4 million students. And these are estimates based on the current, data and usage. So what's in the Michigan Model for Health? When I say comprehensive, what do I mean? So this is a little bit of an overview. It also features our cool icons, which are like on the shirt I'm wearing. But yeah, so when we talk about comprehensive health ed, this is kind of what we're talking about. Social and emotional health is kind of a foundational unit within our curriculum. We do recommend for educators using and implementing that they maybe consider starting for content areas at the social and emotional health lessons, because not only does it teach students like how to get along with each other and interact with the world, but it also really can help with like classroom management and kind of setting up structure and boundaries within the classroom and also within the activities you're going to be doing. There's a lot of like role playing, for example, that happens because we know that you have to have real world application to concepts in order to apply them and have that lead to behavior change. So, if you're going to be doing a lot of role playing, setting up the structure for that, talking about what that looks like. Also, I guess just to clarify and add a little bit of point, Michigan Model is very focused around not putting students in the negative role play position. So these are all written in such a way that the teacher is leading any kind of negative behavior, perhaps like it's a peer pressure situation where students are responding. So they're always going to be practicing and reinforcing the correct way to respond. So we're not having them practice pressuring each other and things like that. We know that's going to come, but we want them to know how to deal with it. Why do we practice for fire drills? So we know what to do when stakes are high and stress is high, and you're building your skills up, so it's almost like a muscle memory response, right? So again, social emotional health, very foundational, very important. Also nutrition and physical activity. Currently in the process of looking at that with new guidance and also possibly changing the name to align more with the new Michigan health standards. So that's a little sneak peek of possibly things to come. There's also content on safety, including personal safety. I can talk more to that if anyone has questions. Alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs is absolutely a big focus. In fact, there's a lot of content that's been updated in recent years related to tobacco, vaping, marijuana, content on that. Personal health and wellness. And then finally, there are HIV, AIDS, and other STI content information as well. I will tell you that because of the outdated nature of certain lessons and funding challenges, we do not currently have sex ed offerings, but we do have a lot of guidance for educators on how to cover that content and then work with our trainers in order to meet any needs that a district may have. But anything, required, like HIV content, for example, is included still, and they do need to make sure they're qualified to teach it, but I can always work with the school or talk to them about what that entails. Oh, we went back. Okay. Yeah. So that's our 6 major content areas that's involved in essentially, well, I was going to say all grade levels, but HIV, for example, at elementary is only in 4th and 5th grade. So just to clarify, it's not in pre-K. So for the most part, these are all those topic areas. And it does depend a little bit on the grade level we're talking about. Certainly for secondary schools, middle school, and high school, you will see all of these content areas covered. Okay. So another thing that has recently changed, and this was preemptive to the new health education standards in Michigan coming out this fall, we had a bit of a heads up that this change was coming down. And so one of the things that we did recently do was align to grade bands. So I really think, I guess, formally as an educator, I really felt like this was a very responsive and good idea to implement, because what it does is it allows for a lot more adaptations and personalized instruction, depending on where your students' capabilities are. And what I mean by that is, so now, say as an example, let's give an example. First grade teacher. A first grade teacher previously would only have content access to first grade curriculum. Now we are offering kindergarten through 2nd grade access to that same teacher. No modification to the price structure or anything like that for them. So the point of that is scaffolding. If if I'm teaching students, it's understanding where they're at and being able to assess that, I would then have access to lessons from kindergarten, so the previous year that they experienced, and also what's coming for them next year in grade 2, and have like a real good understanding of what's offered. And by the time they leave me, I can be hitting those milestones and working with them towards those next steps. So it really gives the teacher more access to further content, kind of the bigger picture. And also, if you have students that are really grasping concepts and moving quickly, you can go into some of that, next grade level material. And similarly, if someone's struggling and needs more foundational, more context, you can go back into those kindergarten lessons and really work with them, scaffold them in order to get everyone kind of on the same page. So that's true for each lesson, for each grade level now. So we have K2 as one grade band, and 3-5, and that's the elementary curricula. And then also, I know we're talking today to secondary school principals. So middle school, you get 6th grade through 8th grade. The idea is that by the time they finish that 8th grade level, that those milestones are hit. But they can do it anywhere from that 6th grade to 8th grade. And like I said, if you're a 7th grade teacher, you're going to have access to what came before and what's coming next. And by the time they pass through 8th grade, you can hit those milestones. 9-12, I will tell you, our high school has always been, well, not always been, but for the most part has always been already like grouped together for 9-12. And that's because we know about implementation details within the schools, and that sometimes this is a semester in that entire 4-year experience. But I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. I just wanted to also point out, not only are we in grade bands now, and again, I was able to get a little bit of a heads up working with our partners at MDE and find out about these changes that were coming down. We're also doing a gap analysis right now with the curriculum and the new standards to kind of find out what we may need to do to revise and update and things like that. But we are still aligned to the national standards currently. Just wanted to share, there's more content, more flexibility with these grade bands. It is more cost effective. They're getting access to a lot more content, more lessons, without it being, deterrent for the actual teacher. They are designed for real classrooms with real world application, with lots of, like I said, role playing and different ways of really trying to drive home and make those connections, and help students understand how to apply these new learning principles, new skills to their real lives. Also, full K through 12 access is available. So there are some educators, maybe they're working multiple grade levels, maybe they just want to see all of the content and understand how the whole structure works. Curriculum director may also want to have more access as well. Also wanted to talk a little bit about our curriculum packages. So there are support materials to help reinforce some of this learning in the classroom. At elementary, lots of posters on the walls. There are, as you can see, there's some puppets. There's a giant toothbrush and teeth for the purposes of practicing dental hygiene. There are books to help support. At high school, we do still have some support materials. I can show you some examples of that. Posters for sure. Also, we have been developing slides, Google Slides, that teachers can use in the classroom to kind of customize learning and follow up on some of this content as well. But yeah, there are grade support material kits. If you ever see our Michigan Model for Health Clearinghouse table at a conference, you're going to see a lot of this stuff in person and be able to touch and see it all. So again, this kind of features a little bit of a snapshot of what you might see in a curriculum lesson. But like I said, I'm going to do a little bit of a show and tell as we have more time today. And so maybe I can answer any questions you have there. Okay. We are a Tier 1 comprehensive curriculum. This is really designed for all students. Obviously, further follow-up can be done and work to build on these skills and this content. But I wanted to also just give you a little bit of an overview on what we're talking about with implementation. So what does instructional time look like? This is an estimate, of course, depending on the teacher, the content that they're covering. You know, to ensure effective implementation and the evaluation results that we've been able to report, we do recommend implementation with fidelity, which means 80% or more of the lessons based on feedback from our evaluation team. So that's what we recommend. However, we do know that there's limited time, especially in secondary classrooms, for implementation. So one thing that I do sometimes do with schools is talk to them about what their data says and what the priorities might be and what areas to really focus on. Again, if your numbers for vaping and tobacco and things like that are looking really high, you may really want to focus and you know, reinforce some of the tobacco content, maybe content about vaping, things like that. So while this is true that these are the hours if you're doing 100% implementation, we do understand that doesn't always happen. And I will work with you to brainstorm or with your teachers to brainstorm and talk about what that can look like, what's the best way, what's the most informed way, best practice, evidence-based, that you can do that. So just wanted to show you, yes, the lesson count is pretty high for high school, but that's with all content. As you can see, all the different icons, each icon represents a different subject area, as you saw here. So, oops, sorry to jump around on you so much. There we go. So I also wanted to talk a little bit specifically about the 912 health education curriculum. So our grade 912 curriculum, again, I mentioned, it does have skills really set up front and really focused on. I just wanted to talk about adaptability again. That is designed to be a 1-semester course, but it can be adapted to a 12-week trimester class. Again, if you have questions or if your teachers have questions about how to do implementation, questions about how to make informed decisions about how to present, and really any questions about Michigan Model, I'm always happy to talk and brainstorm and problem solve. Just wanted to talk about this creativity, innovation, and inventiveness is emphasized. We do have effective communication and collaboration with others. These are like skills that they may have that are improved from the application of these lessons. So just talking a little bit about that. Critical thinking, problem solving, decision making. Again, skills are really put up front and reinforced with different content. So We also wanted to just show kind of the variety here of ways to access the curriculum. So again, it is a teacher curriculum. So they're the ones that would be accessing it on a computer, on a tablet, on their phones, perhaps. It is fully online. And so what students are seeing is really the implementation of the lessons themselves. They don't have a textbook in this case, right? Also wanted to point out, we do have a new scope and sequence chart. Oh, I don't think the link is going to. Actually, did it open? Are you able to see it?
Yeah, we're able to see it.
Excellent. Okay. Yeah. So this is a scope and sequence, and I can come back to this in a little while, but this is a reference that is available on the website. And it does go through grade levels. You can see here like what content is covered through those check marks, lesson count, average time, and estimated instructional time. But it really does break it down. I'll go down to the secondary area so you can see that more. By each individual content area, shows you the icon here and kind of a little bit about what is covered. So alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs, for example, at 6-8, this is refusal skills, analyzing influences, peer advocacy, and what is involved exactly here is understanding addiction and brain development risks, addressing vaping, opioids, and prescription misuse, and then practicing refusal and advocacy for a drug-free lifestyle. So that's kind of the middle school focus for a TOD, just to show you kind of an overview. And then if we go down to high school, here we go, looking at that same content area. Well, as you can see, the skills foundation box here in yellow, that again is that first unit. So it's really focused on first, and then all of that all those skills are reinforced as you go through each of the content areas. So in order to be comparative to what we just looked at middle school, if we're looking at ATOD, our skills here at high school would be refusal, peer support, advocacy, and critical thinking. They'd be examining health, legal, and social impacts of substance use and misuse, and exploring different drug issues like opioids, vaping, and marijuana, and supports the sporting peers in quitting as well. There was quite a bit of content on opioid misuse prevention that was added in recent years. In fact, because of some grant funding, we were able to send updated copies of curricula. This is when it was still kind of in hybrid mode, meaning print as well as online. At that time, all districts in Michigan received updated content in that way. So it was a really good process. I'm going to minimize this and try to get back to slides. Here we go. Okay, so that was a little bit about the scope and sequence, and I will show you on the website where you can access that if you want to look at that more in depth. I'm going to keep going though. All right, standards and effectiveness. Also wanted to talk a little bit about that. So here we have the different skills that are covered. Also wanted to mention that we are CASEL certified. CASEL as a CASEL Select program, and that was really for our real emphasis and focus on social and emotional learning. So you will see some of the information about that. I can even show you the evaluation page where you can read more about it. We also look at the whole child approach and make sure that we're in alignment with that content. We are aligned to the National Health Education Standards. Currently, because the new health education standards in Michigan have just been released, we are in the process. We have a contractor who is looking at gap analysis and making sure that we are covering things, and what we are not, we're going to be working to revise and add or supplement as needed so that we're covering all the needs of Michigan teachers. So just a little bit about standards and effectiveness. I will show you the page that you can go to on the website to learn more about that as well. Some outcomes. So just talking a little bit about data, some improving and positive student outcomes. So things that we do see, if you are implementing these lessons, you're doing so with fidelity, meaning 80% or more of the lessons. This is what you could expect to see. Less reported alcohol and tobacco use, stronger drug refusal skills, better interpersonal communication skills, less reported aggression, improved safety skills, better self-management skills, and then finally improved physical activity and nutrition skills. So again, if you're implementing lessons, you're doing so with fidelity, mindfully, looking at your data, things like that. These are all connections you can make and improvements that you can make within students' personal behavior and really benefiting their lives in lots of ways. So core features that I wanted to emphasize for Michigan Model, it is skills-based curricula. Lessons are skills-based. It's really emphasizing, you know, drumming up motivation for why these skills are important, how they can help students, and how they have real-world application to changes in their own lives that can come from those behavior changes related to health. So skills-based, it is also sequential. What I mean by that is, again, if your students are getting this content at preschool, at elementary, at middle school, at high school, then all the lessons are going to build upon themselves at a developmentally appropriate level, of course. Strengthen, improve, and I also wanted to add, there's a family component. We're actually going to be strengthening that even more, but there are family resource sheets that go home in elementary that, again, share content that's going on in the classroom with students and their families. And the point of that is to make sure that we're promoting consistency in that child's life. Like, for example, you're learning a lot of good new skills in your classroom, and then you go home and perhaps those messages are contradictory. That would be confusing to a student, probably not lead to a lot of success. So having family reinforcement, having family resource sheets that go home, get them on the same page. We're all talking the same language, and they can help to reinforce that stuff at home too. We're working on lots of projects around that. There's going to be translation efforts going into making sure family resource sheets are accessible in a way that families can use them. So again, builds upon itself. That's sequential. Fully scripted. I'll show you that in the show and tell portion we'll be going into in a moment. Yes, if you are a brand new teacher, there's lots of support. If you're not sure how to phrase a certain thing or explain a certain thing, there is full scripting. There's also the ability to hide that full scripting if you're a seasoned veteran teacher and you don't necessarily need the exact wording. You want to put it in your own words. You want to make it adaptable in that way. Absolutely okay. We want people to use their own language, to process it in real world ways as much as possible. So if you're really familiar with the content, you don't need to look at the scripting. But if you're brand new, or maybe it's content that you're not super comfortable with, like unsafe touch, perhaps, or something like in personal safety. I'm trying to think of what are the more controversial or tougher lessons to implement. Then you could follow a script if you were unsure. Also interactive, like I said, lots of activities built in. We do have a lot more Google resources available, including worksheets for students that at certain grade levels. But trying to find ways to make them more interactive. Like I said, there's already a lot of role playing. There are a lot of modifications and supplements for, if students want to make skits or create a video, or, there's lots of different ways to express or share or present content. So understanding that as well. And then also flexible. I hope that's clear. We will help you understand how to make adaptations, how to make them mindfully. We will work with you on training. We have a great system of training here in Michigan. We have a support network of our grantees that actually run Michigan Model for Health trainings regionally, so that you can connect with someone in your area that will really help you to make sure that implementation is ideal, and to help problem solve and even help you understand your data and ways to get to good outcomes in your area and work with these students. So that's a little bit about the core features. Also, I just wanted to talk about skills-based instruction. So these are our 4 steps to skills-based instruction that you're going to see over and over and over and over in Michigan Model. So the idea is that if you're presenting a new skill, you're going to go through these 4 steps. You're going to first off explain it, create motivation for the students for why this is an important skill. You're going to model that skill so they can see what that skill looks like. You're going to have them practice that skill to show that they can do it. And then you're going to review, check for understanding, apply any changes, process with them. And that's how we move through a skills based instruction process. Like I said, regardless of the skill, whether it's decision making, it's goal setting, it's all, refusal skills, whatever the skill is, those are the 4 steps that we continue to go through as part of Michigan Model. So the portal and the curriculum, this is like a little bit of an overview, but yeah, as you can see, there's some content at the top. This may be the time to start navigating. I will come back to the slides in a moment. Okay, so just going to give you a little bit of a show and tell here. So here is the Michigan Model for Health homepage. So we're kind of on the outside page. Just wanted to show you again, you saw this a little while ago. This is kind of a screen grab I shared, but again, 43 other states currently. I know some of this we've already covered, so I'm just kind of showing you where to find things, where to navigate. So at the top, if you go to program, and I'm just kind of hovering above program, you'll see why choose Michigan Model for Health, evidence-based aligned with standards. You can click on any of these to kind of get more information. Again, dedicated, readily available support. I personally will help you in any way that is necessary. Some core components. And you can read about that more here. Again, I've been given kind of an updated teacher-friendly instructional design. We really work with teachers for feedback, flexible, accessible implementation, and then developmentally sequenced pre-K through 12. So that's, again, just some general information. I also wanted to show you specifically the middle school and high school pages. And again, all of that detail is broken out by topic. The evidence-based program, a little bit about CASEL here. We do have classroom kits I showed, purchasing the curriculum. You can click here and get a trial. So that's middle school, high school. Now, again, this is the public-facing side. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you some lessons really quick. So if I'm going into the portal, this is my portal. Again, I have access to a lot more probably than most, but if I go to the curriculum, I can show you all the content areas. Whatever you have access to would be available on this curriculum page. So because I have access to the whole thing, you're going to see every grade level listed. I'm going to go to high school to show you. So we're in the 9-12 curriculum. There's a little announcement here about updates that recently happened and how to contact. There is a summary of recent 9-12 changes, so you can see some information about like what's been recently done. There's also this quick menu at the top. Let's see. I'll show you the My Curriculum. Oh, that's my curriculum. Let me go back. Okay, so again, from the overview for 9-12, you're going to see the skills that are represented by the icons. Again, that first unit is all about skills instruction. We have the content that's covered in other units as we go forward. You can see here any pre and post tests that are used. Assessment instructions are listed here. We have assessment options, so checklists, rubrics, all the different options that are available within these areas. I also wanted to talk a little bit about ATOD specifically. So if I go to the actual getting started page for that unit, you're going to see that there are 10 lessons. It's going to list your unit goals. So understanding health risks of alcohol, tobacco, and other drug misuse, short-term, long-term, clarifying myths, misconceptions about substance misuse, identifying community and online sources for substance misuse prevention, cessation, and support. I won't read you the whole thing, but you can see here that there's a lot of information outlined right here in your getting started section for the topic. Before you can begin, little information and guidance, the family letters that may be linked, embedded assessments, and again, a little bit about time-saving adaptation strategies that you can look at. So that's all available, even just in the getting started section. There's also a lesson map here that talks a little bit about the student learning objective for that particular lesson and what the standards, the health education standards that are covered within that lesson. So just really high level overview of your units that you can look at. This is your lesson map. You can print these features. So again, we're not a print curriculum anymore. Everything's online. The great part about that for me, especially as someone working on the program, is that I can be sure that when you are online looking at our content, you're looking at the most up-to-date content. I don't have to follow up with, printing things and having people add them to their 3-ring binders anymore. There was a time where we had to do a lot more to ensure that print copies and online copies were consistent, that people were getting the updates. So now, at least with online, we absolutely know you're using the most up-to-date curriculum content. I do want to show you a lesson itself. So we'll go into ATOD lesson 1. Just want to show you here what it looks like. You can even click right to the next lesson at the top through navigation. There is a print button here at the top that you can always click. If you want to print that lesson for the day, maybe you are an old school person. I'm a little bit like this. I like to take doodles and write on things and highlight and draw things to my own attention. So if you wanted to be that person, you could print out your lesson and have that in front of you for that day. You could doodle on it. That is always an option, but at least please do it from the online access point so that we know you're working with the most up-to-date content. Your student learning objectives are listed here, health education standard, and also the CASEL competency, so social emotional health tie-ins as well. When you're scrolling at the top, you have your synopsis. You can see this navigation all represented here on the left as well. Also, that lesson map I shared with you, you can click on that directly from the lesson itself as well. Again, your objectives and standards are going to be here right at the top underneath your lesson sequence. From there, all materials that are necessary for this lesson are listed. Anything that's linked, sometimes there's PowerPoints. We are working on slides. Google Slides are going to be developed for this grade level as well. But right now it's a PowerPoint. So those are things that are being updated as we go. A little bit about preparation, what to do and know before you get started. Instruction, this is where I talked about the script. So if you were, again, that seasoned veteran teacher and you don't need a lot of detail on exactly what to say, you could just kind of read these different headings as though they were almost like bullet points. However, if you're a brand new teacher and you need a little extra support, all you have to do is click on this accordion or this little triangle here, and it'll give you an actual script. So you can literally read off of your script if that is the level of familiarity or like access or support you need. Or like I said, maybe you've got this content down, you want to use your own phrasing, your own wording, then just kind of using these as prompts or bullet points to help lead your discussion is totally okay. So again, we talked about those 4 steps that are reinforced over and over and over. Explain the skill, model the skill, practice the skill, personalize and review. That is skills-based instruction. And that is what the lesson is written, the structure of the lesson as well. Again, about 2 minutes. This is depending on the person, how robust their discussions are. Model skill about 20 minutes, practice skill 25. And again, that can be all adaptable. Also, we used to do some homework assignments. Now we're doing more with exit tickets. This was based on some teacher feedback. So now there's a little exit ticket at the end. I talked about family resource sheets at elementary school. At high school, a lot of the homework or things that go home to help reinforce with teacher or with families, I apologize, are really based around discussion questions that they may go home and process, more so than a handout that goes home at that level. So that's a little bit about what a lesson looks like, what content is there. Again, I want to show you. So this is high school. At high school, we're really looking at these skills, unit goals, when it comes to ATOD, I know that was one of the things we were talking about today. But yeah, you can look at unit goals. You can look at, like I said, that scope and sequence. I just want to show you again from the main page. So we've exited the portal. We're back on here. In resources, you will also see, so not only is there the grade level areas we looked at, but also in resources, you're going to see guidance for implementation, a little testimonial, but also just kind of showing what content areas are there, lesson count, estimated instructional time. I just wanted to also show there's a curriculum alignment page. This talks about different content areas. So skills competency guide here, social emotional learning alignment, MDE and the SEL guide, and then bullying and peer aggression. We also have some content on opioid misuse prevention, ATOD at K-12, prescription drug prevention, and then internet safety. You can look at all of this on our website. Again, under resources, and that was curriculum alignment. And then that scope and sequence document I shared a little bit earlier, the updated version is right here under scope and sequence. You can also look at that skills competency guide, also linked right there. So that's from the main page from michiganmodelforhealth.org. You can just on the public facing side, go to resources. And then finally, research and evidence talked about, program evaluation and evidence of effectiveness. So that's just kind of a little bit of an overview on where you can find things, how you can navigate, again, line to the whole child approach, mental wellness across health topics. So that's a little show and tell from the website. One moment, and I will get back to the presentation. Oops. You want this one. Okay. So that was the portal. A little bit about the curriculum. Apologize for the barking. Stop. Okay. Okay. Also wanted to mention briefly about training. I apologize. Okay. A little bit about training and support. I mentioned that we do have grantees. We do fund 25 sites all over the state of Michigan. And those sites are trainers. We do a training of trainers. We get them prepared to do Michigan Model for Health training in their regions. They do receive yearly funding that can help support schools, making it either free or low cost for schools to implement Michigan Model. Lots of support, technical assistance, follow-up. They are regional, so they can come and meet them at the school. They can have trainings at the ISD. They can do, virtual Zoom trainings. They can work with schools depending on their needs and what is necessary. You can learn a little bit more about online training. Like I said, they can do in-person training. They can do hybrid trainings. They can do virtual trainings. We do have an online training, that's basically self-contained within the website as well, especially for teachers that are coming in from out of state. Maybe they don't have that level of support and a training network to help. We also have, like I said, a Michigan Model for Health clearinghouse that can work with you with questions. I do offer regular national trainings, open office hours for any questions related to implementation of Michigan Model. So that's a little bit more about that. Oops. Any questions folks have? And again, I'm not seeing your faces, so please, if you have a question, put it in the chat, or please feel free to share it. I'm also going to put my contact information here on the last slide. I posted it earlier in chat, but Schaefer J3 at michigan.gov if you have any questions for me. Like I said, if you'd like to attend our open office hours, that's always an option as well. Any questions you may have related to that. Oh, I can pop back to the website for a second. Also, I just want to show you for support, you can go to We have a live webinars if those are being offered. Again, I'm doing actually today, this afternoon, I'll be doing a national training. We also have open office hours. Those are listed here. So that's where you're going to find that content. Live webinars, request a free trial, training and support. There is a blog that, when there's new content that's out, we sometimes will share it in a blog as well. So I do encourage you to go to the website, click around. And I think that's a pretty good overview, and also a little show and tell time. I don't see any specific questions. Let me see.
I don't see any questions in the Q&A or in the chat. So if you do have those, while we have Jesse to answer those, looks like everyone seems to be all set at this time.
Okay, well, you know how to contact me. Please let me know if you have any questions. If you have teachers that want questions answered, or if you'd like really anything, just please reach out, and happy to help. Thank you so much for this opportunity to talk with you today. Really appreciate it. And hopefully now have a better understanding of Michigan Model and what that looks like and all of the new updates. Thank you.
Thanks, Jesse. If you stop sharing, I'm going to just throw in a couple ending slides here. See if I can figure out how to get back here. All right, so just thank you again, Jesse, and MDHHS as well for that helpful information. A couple things that we have upcoming at MASSP, just want to go through these with you. We have a couple webinars coming up. We have one on vaping education this month on the 17th. We will be with College Board talking about the AP African American Studies on the 24th. We will be launching our webinar on Michigan's new cell phone legislation on the 26th. And then March 5th, we'll be back with College Board to talk about the AP pre-calculus class. In addition, there's always webinars and events that you can check on our MASSP webpage. I do want to mention we have our Aspiring Principals Workshop coming up. So if you have teacher leaders, or maybe you're an AP or a dean looking to go into a principal position at the building level, we have a session. You've taken the course, you've demonstrated your potential as a leader, you're ready for the next step, take it. So the information is there. Mock interviews, you will have breakout sessions, opportunity to interview with actual superintendents. So this is a great, great, great session. Pass along the information to those that may also be of interest. So with that, I want to thank you all for attending and being with us, giving us your time this morning. If you have any final questions, I am here, but as you know, MASSP is always here to support you, and you can always reach out to any of us. Thank you so very much.